Bob, we have a little bit of a surprise here for Kansas State. Collin Klein, the backup quarterback, getting to start in place of Carson Kaufman, who has a foot injury and, well, for all intents and purposes, not starting at least the game. Wilson, the back beside Klein. And Wilson takes the handoff. Actually, that's Klein that keeps it.
And Mark, I was
4.
down on the field before the game. Carson Kaufman sprained his ankle, high ankle sprain in the first half against Oklahoma State. He came back and finished that game. But Kansas State, he didn't practice until Thursday. Now, no one told us yesterday he wasn't going to play, but you could see in pregame warm-up, Collin Klein gets to start, much more of a runner. This guy played wide receiver all last season, just moved to quarterback in the spring.
And they break one through. That's Thomas. Touchdown, Wildcats.
All right, and we are off to the races. Season 2 of KSO Classic. Mason Voth, Drew Galloway here with you. It's our favorite part of the summer. Once basketball season goes into the crapper, it feels like we're just counting down the days from February until when we get to June and we get to kick off this new summer tradition at KSO, back for its second year, where we go back and we watch games that we think are pretty important in the lineage of K-State sports, or really just games that are kind of iconic to look back at. Some of these are great rewatches. Others, you go back and you go, man, that was like an awesome game in the moment, but it's not very rewatchable. I remember we thought the Holiday Bowl in 2002 against Arizona State was going to be awesome, and we came away going, it's kind of boring to watch. Same thing for Nebraska in 2003 was one of those. But this is one that I think holds up as a game that is fun to go back and rewatch, not just because there were fireworks on offense for K-State, but also because the defense was impressive to watch in this one. And obviously, this takes on some significant meaning for K-State because this was the first start at quarterback for Collin Klein, and he didn't get any more that season, but it set up what were pretty special 2011 and 2012 seasons, and obviously laid the foundation for him to be able to have the opportunity to come back. Because I think if Collin Klein doesn't become the caliber of player that he is, I don't think it's asinine to say that he would not be the head coach at K-State right now, and that he wouldn't have probably gotten the opportunities as an offensive coordinator at K-State that he did. It wouldn't take anything away from the ability of him as a coach. He just may not be able to get to that position as fast as he had. But when you have a Heisman finalist player turn into a coach, that already gives you instant credibility, and he's obviously taken the great opportunity and ran with it, and we think he's going to be successful as a head coach at K-State. But for today, the focus is on his first start as a quarterback at K-State, and it came on Senior Day, and Scott Wildcat likes to talk about it, that this was the start of November, and it was already senior night for K-State. They finished the year with 3 consecutive road games, which, I mean, the Big 12 just gave it to them in 2010 with the schedule. They had to play KU on the road, and then the next year they had to play KU on the road again because of the way that they flipped the schedules with teams leaving around. And then obviously kind of crazy to finish the year 3 on the road in conference play, almost unheard of, you would think. But there's a lot to get into from this game. So we'll go over it all and take on the angles that we normally do. But we'll start, Drew, just by getting your general overall thoughts of Season 2 of KSO Classic, and this being the game that kicks it off for us.
Pumped for Season 2 of KSO Classic. We've both kind of gotten this itch over the last, would you say 3 or 4 weeks of like, do we just bump it up and do it now?
All the time.
So like for it to finally be here, I'm rocking a Copper Bowl champs shirt to kick off KSO Classic Season 2. Even has the 93 schedule on the back. So like it's full on. So just came up from the beach, like feeling good. Vibes are high. Like this was an incredible game to do a first rendition of KSO Classic Season 2 on, because it's one where I remember being at this game, and obviously in this Bill Snyder era, and especially 2.0, was so secretive. that like I vaguely like have memories of like being in the parking lot at K-State and everybody kind of starting to hear like through the grapevine a little bit that there's going to be a quarterback making his first start, and it ends up being Collin Klein. And I gotta give a hat tip to you because I think that how we are doing KSO Classic this year, the first one and the last one are so like meaningful with how everything is going to be in the Collin Klein era, having his first start be the one that we start with. And then the last two games being 2022 Big 12 championship game, where we get to see him really kind of shine into this being this awesome coach and play caller. And then also having his best game, I think, of his entire career being that 2012 West Virginia game, being the final one that we do. I think that this has been a really fun way to do it last year, and this year's going to be even better. And we actually have a basketball game that I think will fit a lot better with what we want to do in this than last year. Even though last year's basketball game was fun to go back and rewatch, we just can't format it very well.
Yeah, I think the way that we'll have to do the basketball one this year is I think we may start it and let it play through and talk through, and we'll fill the time where we need to. But like if you go and look at the because if you watch a replay of those games on YouTube, they last about an hour, which is about the run time that we normally have of this. So yeah, we'll see how it works out, but tried to load it up with some significance at the start. So we will have a lot of Klein era stuff early. First four are going to be games that Collin Klein played in for K-State. He scores a touchdown in all four of the games. And so we have those
in three different ways.
Yeah, in three different ways. Yes. So that'll be fun. And two of those are like games that really don't have a ton of meaning. But they were just a lot of fun and will be interesting to look back at. And then we'll go back and we go as far back as 1991 this year. So before we get to those last two, which obviously have meaning, we will go back and Drew and I will watch the first Bill Snyder win over KU, which is significant in 1991.
It's going to be such a disgusting game to rewatch.
Yeah, I sent the schedule to a few people over the weekend, and one of the replies was, well, you should really do this one. I said, okay, I understand that, but we have to be able to, one, find the game in full online, and second, that's, I'm sure, a very fun game, but like there has to be a little bit of significance to it as to he understood that aspect. Some of the others we'll watch the 98 game against Nebraska all the way through and do a KSO Classic for that. The 2000 Cotton Bowl against Tennessee is on here. I was 2 and 3/4 years old at the game, freezing my butt off with my parents. And my mom would have been, I think, like 6 months pregnant at the time with my brother. And so we've got that. We've got a game from when I was a student against Texas Tech in 2016 against Patrick Mahomes that is one of the more fun games that I can recall, and so many others that we'll go over and recap throughout this. I think, Drew, you said you did the math. I think you were at 9 of the games that we're going to talk about.
I think that when I did the math, I think that it came out to I've been at 8 that we're going to do. And I think that you said that you were going to be at 7, that you were at 7.
Yeah, so 6 or 7. So
like, oh no, I've been at 7. So
okay. And I think I've been at 6. So
we were at like a good chunk of these, and it's like all parts of our lives so far, which will also be fun to really go and see. Like, that's what made this one so much fun, because this is a game that I don't think that I really thought about again until you put it on the KSO Classic list. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize this at the time because I wasn't even 12 years old. I was 11 years old. I was about to turn 12. Like, you just don't remember some of the things, like intricacies that happened during this game, because you're just like, oh, they won and beat Texas pretty badly.
Well, and this is one that, I mean, it's at that age where I was starting to, I think the 2011 season's probably the first year that like I watched every single game just because schedule allowed it. It was easier once I got into middle school. You weren't busy with whatever it was on the weekends, but this is a game that I didn't really give much light to until, probably a few years down the road afterwards, when you go back and you realize this is the number that everybody recognizes, that K-State dominated this game on the scoreboard with only 9 passing yards in the game. And that's what kind of instills this into K-State lore. And then you add on top of it the fact that Collin Klein had such an incredible game, getting the spot start. That's a significant part of that as well. So we'll get into all that. We'll get ready to go through and do the recap. A couple of things, though, that we like to always talk about in this. First, we have to rate the uniform matchup. I don't know that I can even give this one a score, because I just want you to know that I think that this is probably, and I think I said it last year when we did the 2006 K-State Texas game, I think that this is the best uniform matchup that the old Big 12 ever had. Me, I love the road whites for K-State, but for the matchup with Texas, I think K-State is best in the purple and Texas is best in the all white. And I think it's a very aesthetically pleasing look. So yes, this is the best it can get from a uniform standpoint.
Yeah, this is definitely a 10. It's K-State's best look. It's Texas's best look. Because as much as I like if K-State was to go all white at Texas, if they ever play again in Texas wear the orange, I don't think it hits the same, because I think that K-State's best uniform is still the purple one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I just, it looks so good. And something about the jerseys, there was a sweet spot, I think, from probably about 2007 to 2010, 11, where they were like just advanced enough to not look so old and practice jersey-ish, but also still have a little bit of a, oh, that feels different. Now, I don't know. They're very stiff. And they're meant to treat the athletes better and everything, but we don't really care about that. We like the look of it and everything else. A couple other things just to give an idea of the day in the Big 12. Nebraska beat Iowa State 31-30 in overtime. That was number 9 Nebraska. And obviously Iowa State, a thorn in Nebraska's side for a number of years. KU beat Colorado 52-45 in Lawrence.
Yeah, did you see on the bottom of the screen that I think that KU trailed like 45-17 entering the fourth quarter and won that game?
KU scored 35 points in the fourth quarter to come back to beat Colorado. They were down 45-17 right as the fourth quarter started. Colorado scored to go up, and then KU gets touchdowns with 11:05 on the clock, 9:26, 7:12, 4:30, and 52 seconds to win the game. And one of those is a 28-yard fumble return for a touchdown for KU in that game.
Was that Dan Hawkins, Colorado?
Yeah, I think it would have had to have been, right?
Yeah.
Maybe his last year, because did they fire him before they went to the Pac-12? Because I don't know that he ever coached in the Pac-12. Let's see. Yes, that was his last season at Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, when you blow a 30 or a 28-point lead in one quarter,
he was fired after this game.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Now I'm looking at his Wikipedia, and I'm like, that may have been the last one. It was.
He was fired on November 9th, and that game took place on November 6th. So
they waited 3 days to fire him.
Just, I guess, big decision they had to make. Other games from that day, Oklahoma State beat Baylor 55-28. That is a game that if you've ever watched the Big 12 Fast channel, it will show up from time to time. And so that's, pre-Heisman RG3. Both of those teams were in the top 25. Texas A&M easily handled number 11 Oklahoma 33-19 down at Kyle Field. And then Texas Tech beat Mizzou 24-17 on that day on November 6th, 2010. So that's how the Big 12 was kind of shaping up there. And that would be one of the last conference wins for a long time for KU, with how things ended up working out the next year when Turner Gill came in. So, or I guess this was his first year, right? So this was the last one, and then he ends up getting fired. Anyways, beyond that, we have a couple other things to note about this game. The game kicked off, night game, obviously, that adds to the environment. It was low 60s for the weather. And this is just a game littered with a bunch of, oh man, that was a really good player. That was a really good player for K-State.
On both sides.
Yeah,
Honestly.
I mean, some that are in the pantheon of like all-time great Wildcats, and others that they're not going to be able to kind of crack that world, but still pretty good and deserve a lot of respect. And we'll talk about one of them. So, okay, we started off. You got to see how the game starts. It is a pretty good kick return from William Powell to start the game. K-State only needs a couple of plays. Daniel Thomas is into the end zone.
I feel like you're selling William Powell a little short there. That's like a 60-yard return.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
It was pretty good.
Honestly, I don't care about long returns if you don't end up in the end zone. I just go, yeah, that was fine. And we're talking about K-State special teams in 2010, Drew. This is still a heyday of special teams. So a 60-yard return is the expectation, not just okay, whatever. Anyways, so we have all that going on. And then Texas gets the ball. And like so many of these games, there are always what I would refer to as kind of like breaking points early in them. You think back to 2022 K-State, Oklahoma State. K-State got a really big stop against, and you could even really just go back to the first drive, the 4th and long bomb to Cade Warner. Okay, that sets the tone. But Oklahoma State responded pretty well to start that game. They move the ball, they get into K-State territory, but K-State gets a stop on defense. O-State doesn't score, and it was off to the races from there. And I think that's what we get with the way that this game starts for Texas, is they are moving the ball, and this will come up as my pick for worst play of the game. Mac Brown goes into his bag of tricks and attempts a fake field goal with a guy that the body language after this failed play should have given us some good foresight into the type of man that he was off the football field. And you'll see what I'm talking about right now.
Didn't.
Going to come from 46 yards out. Justin Tucker, 18 of 22 on the year. And they fake it and fumble it. It implodes on Texas. Kansas State ball.
It's that kind of season. They tried to lull him a little to sleep a little bit with Justin Tucker kind of looking down at the tee. Watch. They direct snap it. Just didn't execute it. Period. Again, some frustrations in the red zone, wanting touchdowns, not field goals. They have tried a little bit too hard right here.
So we get Justin Tucker. He is a catalyst in why that play fails. Not good enough hands. And then also he tries flopping at the end as well, trying to get a call. Bad body language walking off. And so, yeah.
Funniest part of that play, I think, is that they show that the second to last replay of it, like even if Tucker catches it clean, I don't think it's going to work.
No, yeah. And it's the way that you run that is very like low probability there. Like you're really hoping you catch somebody napping and that guys on the line there aren't going to be able to make a play and stop a 95-pound kicker from running through. Like you really have to have some serious confidence that you're going to be able to pull something like that off. And Texas wasn't able to. Now, here's what people should keep in mind, that even though this was a really strong game for K-State, this is also still a very classic, like Bill Snyder type of game. I think some other people have started to catch on to it about the whole, like, the cliches of Bill Snyder teams. They don't beat themselves. They're disciplined and all this stuff. No, they were just so good at times that like that stuff didn't matter because they made stupid mistakes all the time, and in this game included. So first off, the fake field goal happens. K-State ends up with all this stuff. They put themselves in a good spot. They ultimately don't really get much throughout the first quarter of this game like they should have. They have another situation where K-State gets an interception later that we'll talk about, and they get the ball at the Texas 12. They only come away with a field goal on that drive. There's so much in this. There's a pre-snap penalty that wipes out an opportunity to go for it on fourth down. It was just a microcosm of what really this era turned into for K-State, where they were really good, really fun, but also they just did some really maddening things. A few other things that I want to note that we didn't show you there. so we start with Mark Jones as Texas takes the field, talks about Garrett Gilbert has a very bad touchdown to interception ratio. So he notes early that is not very good. That will be key in this game. And then Raphael Guidry immediately announces his presence. He is the one that got the stop to force the field goal there from Texas, which also, like, that's a pretty obvious we're going for it situation. Like, this could be a fake. So that was weird that Texas didn't just go for it straight up. He ends up being massive throughout the course of this game. But, yeah, a hilarious play right there. Next up, we are going to show you the first of what became one of the signature plays of Collin Klein's career at K-State, running the option this time with Daniel Thomas, who gets fortunate that the ball bounces out of bounds when he fumbles it.
Klein under center. Little option to Thomas, and he's got some room on the edge. Thomas. Ball came loose out of bounds after a big hit by Keenan Robinson. But it's a first down for the Wildcats.
Well, it's obvious that Collin Klein is a run-first quarterback. They're just coming with the lead option down the line of scrimmage. Good lick right here in the open field by the linebacker. But that's kind of been a story for Texas, too. Forcing some fumbles, but not able to recover fumbles. But you can see Collin Klein, who played wide receiver last year, a running threat at quarterback.
And so I also leave in there Bob Davie, alluding to, hey, very much a runner, all this other stuff. So the game keeps progressing on, and we finally get the first Garrett Gilbert interception of the game. A reminder, folks, there are 5 of these throughout this game. So pace yourselves. We're going to see a lot of bad from Garrett Gilbert.
2nd and 10. Pass tipped and intercepted. Down to the 12.
It's that kind of year for Texas. Raphael Guidry batted that football at the line of scrimmage. Watch right here, Raphael Guidry. You see it come out of there. The pick by Stephen Harrison, another Texas kid from Dallas, Texas. Talk about a thrill. You have William Powell, returns that opening kickoff. He's from Duncanville. Then you have Stephen Harrison from Dallas get the interception. And Raphael Guidry, Texas City, Texas.
All right, so Ralph Guidry, another play that he makes right there. He's the reason why that interception happens in K-State. They only managed to come away with 3 points on that drive, but early 10-0 lead.
Bob Davie was not great in this game, but he did love throwing in when a Texas guy did something good for K-State.
Is he from Texas? Do we know where he's from? What's the deal with loving up on Texans, or just the fact that it was such a staple of Bill Snyder rosters?
I think it had to just be that it was a
Bob Davis from Pennsylvania, by the way, and he played at Youngstown State.
Yeah, so it was definitely just pointing out that this just keeps happening to Texas.
He did coach at Texas A&M for almost a decade, though, as a linebackers coach and defensive coordinator. But yeah.
He also had a horrific head coaching stint everywhere.
Yeah, I mean,
New Mexico, it was all bad.
A kind of just a bizarre a path to end up being a featured broadcaster like he was, to fail at Notre Dame, and then you go to ESPN for a long time, and then New Mexico's like, what the heck? Why not? So, yeah, bizarre. Bob Davie, we were all better for him not being on our TV screens anymore. RIP, still alive. So, yes, that's okay. We can say that right now. All right, now let's get on with the show and what everybody really wants, and that is K-State finally starting to do things, move the ball, and Collin Klein finding the end zone for the first time in this game.
Actually throw it. Well, he struck the post and then took off for a first down. A 10-yard gain after looking like he was actually going to wind up and throw it. Thomas with a nice block to make it happen.
Yeah, Daniel Thomas actually with 2 blocks.
The key plays, and here's Klein again gets to the edge. Touchdown.
Yeah, Daniel Thomas with another block on Keenan Robinson. Any play that you can run with the tailback, you run with the quarterback in this kind of offense, but you pick up an extra blocker, the tailback that time, the blocker.
So give Daniel Thomas an assist on that touchdown drive. 9 plays, 54 yards, every single one of them a run. And Kansas State leading 17-0 with 8:22 to go here in the first half. How do you know when you're a legend? When
So there you go. Another just staple. Your game in Manhattan. They're like, we got to show that the highway is named after Bill Snyder coming into town. But again, seeing some of the traits that became staples of Collin Klein playing quarterback at K-State, pulling the ball down and running, and then being patience, all that stuff. And K-State's off to the races 17-0 early in the second quarter.
Yeah, just an absolute staple of this era. K-State running Klein. I mean, there was not a chance in the world he was actually going to throw the ball on that 3rd and 3, and Texas still couldn't stop it.
And we will show the first completion of the game, but we're a ways away from that happening.
And then we also got a very young, like maybe 3rd or 4th year at Manhattan, Taylor Bratt appearance on that last shot of Bill also.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, I'm gonna have to pull this up, and let's see. Gotta find the right one, and let's see. Okay, it's there. I'll zoom us forward. You're saying
okay?
We're at.
Oh,
all right.
Yep.
leading
Gotta go
17-0
right
with
there
8:20
on the left. Back it up a little bit more, and he's gonna be on the left.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Oh, sure enough, there you go.
17-0.
That's a great call by you. You're catching everything.
Kansas State.
Well, if we're being 100% honest, did not see that live. That was me seeing that like right now.
All right, well, that's a nice little Easter egg. Hey, we like to throw out the that guy, random people to show up in it. Not so random now. So K-State gets on the board 17-0 at that point, and we know that there's still plenty left to do in this game, and that includes Ty Zimmerman making an interception before the half. I want to give a shout out to a legend of uploading old games to YouTube. Before it was cool. Hugh Cat is just doing the Lord's work. Most of the games that we will find come from him. I don't know what the deal was with this particular one, but we do miss a chunk of the game. We'll miss an interception from Tyson Hartman, and then also the touchdown to make it 24-0 in this game. So if you're curious what you're missing out on, Collin Klein's second run, which came off of a Tyson Hartman pick, and then put K-State at the 10-yard line. Collin Klein takes it in on that very next play, and K-State's up 24-0, and that's how we get to this point. But we have more to kind of close things out, and that is Ty Zimmerman sealing any chance of Texas scoring before the first half ends with another just bad throw by Garrett Gilbert.
Given all day to pass, and he's picked off in the end zone. Zimmerman out to the 40. Wow.
We were just talking about the quarterbacks, weren't we?
Sure were.
And there's Ty Zimmerman. I know these Texas fans don't want to hear about Ty Zimmerman, but that's a freshman whose dad's a high school coach. Just forced it and threw it behind Mike Davis. Couldn't make a decision, held on to it, then threw it behind him. And let's think about those two different locker rooms. Mark, think about Kansas State's locker room and the emotion the positive energy. But think about that Texas locker room going in down 24-0 in Manhattan, Kansas.
On senior night, with 22 seniors for Kansas State playing their final home game. Their last 3 are going to be on the road. This is an inspirational time, and they are highly motivated. 24-0 at the break. Maybe Garrett Gilbert should have thought about what his coaches said. You can't go broke making money, Wendy Nix, as we go back to you for the Outback Steakhouse halftime report.
Welcome to the Outback Steakhouse halftime report.
I'm not really sure that line makes any sense, or if Mark Jones was relaying what the Texas coaching staff said to Garrett Gilbert incorrectly. And what does that even mean in this circumstance? You can't go broke making. I don't understand. I think he botched a reference or something in there.
Something wasn't quite right with what was said and how it came across, because it didn't make any sense.
Bad.
Ty Zimmerman ends up having an awesome career. That doesn't mean that if I was on the K-State sideline, I wouldn't be clowning him that he was tackled by Garrett Gilbert, and that's why he didn't score. It should have been 31-0 K-State at halftime if Ty Zimmerman can not be tackled by Garrett Gilbert.
Maybe Garrett Gilbert was playing on the wrong side of the ball. Maybe he was Joel Lanning before Joel Lanning, and he should have switched over to defense.
Well, I mean, it's hard to play worse than Garrett Gilbert did in this game if you put him on defense somewhere. So you might be onto something.
Yeah, it was bad news, and for Garrett Gilbert, it wasn't a real reset that he got at halftime, because he comes out and decides that he's just going to keep doing what he did the entire first half, and this is how K-State starts the second half against Texas, already up 24-0, already with 3 interceptions in their pocket.
Straight runs. Texas with 17 straight passes at the end of the first half.
That's number 18, and this one is picked off. This is Hartman. Hartman still on his feet and steps out of bounds at the 14-yard line. An ignominious beginning to the third quarter for Texas, their 4th turnover.
Hey, I'm not 100% sure what ignominious means, but that's about as bad as it can get. He threw it behind him. That is 4 interceptions. You have to think about taking him out of the football game. Tyson Hartman, Mark, as good as he is, future, as exciting it is to watch him with the big arm, I think you have to take him out of this football game.
Why do you do that? Do you risk losing him or mentally for the rest of the season if you don't take him out now?
I mean, it's based on performance.
I mean, Bob Davie was not holding back. He was sick of what he was seeing from Garrett Gilbert. Okay, and also, can we talk about the coaching malpractice of Mac Brown here? You have a quarterback that clearly sucks, is throwing picks left and right, and they literally say before that first play of the second half, they've attempted 17 straight passes, and then he throws the 18th, and it's an interception. That was just the definition of asking for it.
Same thing here. Tyson Hartman has a great career at K-State. How do you not score?
Yeah, I mean, just not knowing where the feet were, I guess things get jumbled up a little.
Did you notice who tipped that at the line of scrimmage too?
Was it Ralph Guidry again?
Yeah, and he also smoked Garrett Gilbert.
I mean, he was an animal in this game. It was very fun to watch.
We need to have a sit-down conversation with Tyson Hartman and Ty Zimmerman, show these 2 plays and ask how they didn't score on either one.
One other thing that I don't know if you're paying attention to this on the watch through. One of the fun parts about this was that the ticker was left in on this game. Did you see as they're going through the replay of what it said about horse racing? So the Breeders' Cup in 2010 took place. Rough Sailing was euthanized on this day after fracturing a leg in the Breeders' Cup, which is just like, I enjoy watching horse racing. I've bet on horse racing before. Like, I enjoy it. you do to some extent think about like, the humanity of some of these animals in that and go, okay. But when nothing bad happens to them, you just kind of go, okay, they're fine, whatever. It's the fact that you've got some that it's like, yeah, if something goes wrong here, really, we can't do anything but kill them, which again, I'm not a PETA guy. I'm not on this side. Like, I don't really know, but I think if it's become the common practice for most people, it's like, well, at that point, once they get this type of injury, like the humane thing is to put them down. But that is a depressing thing just to throw up there for people to be watching and being like, hey, this horse, we had to kill it because it broke its leg. So anyways, we get that out of the way. Tyson Hartman has another pick. A horse has been killed. And Daniel Thomas is the horse that lives because he just keeps running, unlike rough sailing.
Or completed a pass actually tonight. Hands it off to Thomas. Touchdown, Kansas State. Christian Scott missed a tackle, allowing the score.
You said it, Mark. And we've talked so much about the Texas problems. We have to just praise Kansas State and Bill Snyder. This is power football. Daniel Thomas, a big, strong running back, but Bill Snyder in this game plan tonight with a running quarterback, a guy that I don't think can throw the ball.
I don't know if you're in the interest of running down more great Wildcats, Drew, but Travis Tannehill with a blocking effort there that looks like he should have been with the tight ends on the last couple of teams at K-State and not from his era. It didn't matter. Daniel Thomas still found a way into the end zone. Two things that I want to make mention of here so I don't forget them because I think they're important in this game. Number one, ESPN was on top of it. If you want sad shots of fans, they were finding everybody in burnt orange in the crowd. And the fans were obliging and giving really sad looks and great opportunities for the camera to take it. And also, number two, I know everybody has a preference toward who was in the role when they were growing up, and that's kind of like the sound of the stadium to them. But Dave Lewis as the PA guy at K-State games, like the voice just booms over on the broadcast. Some people hate that. I like it. It gives you kind of an idea of what's going on there and will forever be an iconic voice to me for that. And then, I mean, the most insane thing was when I'm 19 years old and I show up at Manhattan Broadcasting saying, hey, I want a job. And all of a sudden, this guy that I've been hearing for over a decade in my life, it's like, oh, yeah, this is going to be my boss now at Manhattan Broadcasting Company. So shout out to Dave. And also, that is fun for me to think about, probably even more so for who I'm about to mention. But, like, do you think Mitch Fortner sits at home at night and goes, like, this is what, like, 8-year-old, 9-year-old kids are going to have of me when they get to college, where they're going to be like, yeah, this guy, this was the voice that I remember, and this is the one that I love. Like, that's
Dave Lewis. He was in his bag in this game too. Like, you could really hear him over the broadcast. Yeah, I mean, this has been even funnier watching the highlights again.
Yeah,
this was
great.
An incredibly funny game, especially because if you recall, Mason said he was gonna show the video of Collin Klein's first completion, and that still hasn't happened yet. And it's 31-0.
Yes, that is true. All right. And don't worry, this next play, this is also not going to be the completion, but it is the final time that Garrett Gilbert completes a pass to the guys in purple as Ty Zimmerman gets his second interception of the game.
Gilbert with time. And intercepted again by Zimmerman for the second time tonight. That's the 5th interception thrown tonight by Gilbert.
You start to worry a little bit about Garrett Gilbert's vision. Does he see the defenders? I know you have a big arm. I know you want to force it in there, as a lot of guys. I mean, John Elway, Dan Marino, because they have so much confidence in their arm. But, Mark, I start to worry about his vision.
So
one of the first times I've ever heard a commentator like question if a guy can see.
yeah, hopefully he went to the eye doctor Monday morning, or I mean, maybe it was like in Kicking and Screaming when Will Ferrell takes the glasses and they stick him on the goalie and they just find out he couldn't see the entire time. But yeah, so fifth interception of the game thrown by Garrett Gilbert. And now this is going to be the longest consecutive clip that we show you because you're going to get a lot right here. There are some questions that are left to be answered in this game. You may be saying 39-14, but how did they get there when it's 31-0 and we know that another touchdown is coming? That will be answered. As Drew mentioned, we are getting late into the third quarter and we still have not shown you the first pass completion from K-State in this game. Do not worry. It is coming. So many things left to be answered, and that happens in the next 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Oh, go ahead.
I was also going to mention if a different play doesn't exist, I think that Ty Zimmerman pick would have been my pick for best play.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I think I might know what your best play of the game is then, and I think it might be mine, and I think we are about to show it.
Zach told me yesterday Bill Snyder texted him. That's Bill's
old school texting?
Wow. Texted him 5 times.
Wow. This is Powell in. Powell takes the handoff, stays on his feet. Great handle and a tremendous effort inside the 10-yard line. Someone else finally touched the ball and got some yards.
This kid's a great story, too. Now, from Duncanville, Texas, where they play really good high school football, went to Navarro Junior College as a walk-on at Navarro. Was a walk-on here until just about a month ago. He's a good change-up to Daniel Thomas. He's the quicker of the two backs.
Got him in good scoring position here at the 8-yard line. Here's again. Touchdown, Powell.
Jordan Hicks in the hole had a chance to make that play for about no gain. Good little cutback run right there in the hole, though, by William Powell.
And for Powell, that's his 4th rushing touchdown of the season and of his career. And the extra point blocked. Could they? They score it anyway. It's been that type of night for Kansas State. When it's going good, it's going good. And when it's going poorly, it's going really poorly for the Longhorns. Calvin Howell blocked it, but the Wildcats recovered it and got it. Came right back to the kicker.
Whatever that, whether it's karma, whether it's momentum, whatever it is, Mark, if you could ever bottle that in athletics, right?
Yeah.
When it goes bad, it goes so bad.
All right, so I lied to everybody in my recording mishap, which I explained to Drew beforehand, where I had to go back and re-record some things. I forgot to get the DT catch in there. He ended up having 2 in the game for 9 yards, and that's why, again, you get this number where K-State, 9 passing yards in the game. K-State total yardage in this game also just kind of looks insane because Texas, when a team has 412 to 270, you go, oh my goodness, but those 5 interceptions do some significant work. And also, like as we talked about, William Powell had like a 60-yard kickoff return to start the game. So that does some for you. And so the rushing yards, obviously K-State did a lot on the ground in this game, and that's what it all totals up to.
So William Powell, one of my more underrated players growing up. I loved William Powell.
And see, this is where, like, for me, I look and I think of William Powell and I just go, it like doesn't register for me because Daniel Thomas was getting the ball all the time. And so like a bad era for William Powell to be at K-State. Unfortunate for him because we've seen now a couple of games that feature him and he was, he did some things in there, but just not the opportunity. Not there for him, because he had two 70-yard games in that season against UCLA and KU, which, by the way, we will show you that KU game in a couple of weeks, and then a really nice play there against Texas, 2 of them back to back. Those were his only 2 carries in the game, because we know Daniel Thomas was a bell cow.
But the hard part is, like, if he would have came in before, it would have been a train wreck, because it would have been Ron Prince.
Yeah.
And if it would have been after, like, you could make the argument that he probably has a better career than John Hubert.
Woo. See, that's what I was about to ask you. I wasn't going to make you volunteer that take.
I think that you could make an argument that he has a better career than John Hubert, but John Hubert was what 2012 and 2011 needed.
Yeah. All right. So there you go. That is what we have for you, because the fourth quarter becomes very boring. K-State is gracious enough to finally let Texas score. Mac Brown takes a couple of sad timeouts, all that stuff to get a few more points in there.
The usual.
K-State, and K-State wins the game 39-14. Huge day for Collin Klein throwing the football, 2 of 4, 9 yards, but 127 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. Daniel Thomas, 100-yard game, 2 touchdowns for him. He had both the catches. Zimmerman and Hartman, just 2 great safeties at K-State with 2 picks each in the game. And you look on the other side, Garrett Gilbert getting to throw the ball almost 60 times. I'm with Bob Davie. How was he not taken out of the game at some point? They showed Case McCoy on the bench at one point. We all love Case McCoy as well.
My guess is that because they had to check his vision to see if he could actually throw the ball to the correct team.
And then, as we mentioned, Justin Tucker, just an all-around terrible guy. 2 of 2 on his PATs, 2 punts, but he did screw up a fake field goal. And then Sam Acho, good for him. I wanted to make note that he was the talented of the Acho brothers, and he did actually play in this game. And we do remember him on the K-State side of things, unlike his brother Emmanuel, who, for whatever reason, talked about how much they hated Collin Klein, even though I think Collin might have been the least hateable player in the Big 12 during this time. So shout out to Sam Acho. Not great on TV, but far better than his brother. And that's what we have. Also,
neither are great on TV.
James Kirkendall was impressive to watch. He had some really great catches in this game for Texas. And then one other thing that I want to point out that showed up on the broadcast, this is our second Texas game we've looked back at, and they've featured the men's basketball coach on the sideline. So there's Frank Martin taking in the K-State Texas game. I believe this is like a day or two before they beat Washburn by like 45 points. So that is obviously on the heels of the 2010 Elite Eight. So the K-State preseason number 3, all of that. And times were good right there for Frank Martin. That got a little stressful over the next couple of months, and then really never stopped being stressful at K-State for him.
Amazing hat that Frank is wearing.
Yes, yeah.
And
the fact that Nike made it, you know.
I also had this written down as something I wanted to talk about, because that is, like, what are the odds that we do a KSO Classic of 2 Texas games and we see Bob Huggins and Frank Martin?
Yeah.
And, like, they talked about the K-State basketball upcoming season for quite a long time on the broadcast too.
Yeah, they had multiple graphics devoted to talking K-State basketball ahead of things, and Bob Davie talking about, you know, Frank Martin. That's a football coach coaching basketball and all that, which I think some would probably kind of agree to. All right, now this is maybe, we know KSO Classic is our favorite thing we do all summer, all year, really. This is maybe our favorite thing inside of KSO Classic. It is time for the trivia question. Unfortunately, not a big enough game, so we don't have the game's Aflac trivia question. But we do always have one that I come up with for Drew because it's fun. It takes us back to this era. So, Drew, the question for you, and maybe you know this because you wanted to be a historian about this season. 6 Cats logged at least 1 rushing touchdown in 2010. Daniel Thomas, Carson Kaufman, Collin Klein, William Powell, and Braden Wilson. And a 6th player found the end zone. Who was that 6th player for K-State in 2010?
Does position give it away?
I would say probably, but I would just say that you should have enough context clues to take a pretty wild, educated guess who did it.
Like, is the 6th John Hubert?
No, that's not a horrible guess, I would say. Was Hubert on the 2010 team? When did he get to K-State? Was it the next year?
He started in 2011.
Okay,
So
yeah, I guess, yeah. I knew he started in 2011, but I wasn't sure when he got there. Yeah, he had 12 carries in 2010, but only 28 yards, no touchdowns.
Okay, is it actually a running back?
It is not a running back. I can tell you that.
Is it Samuel Lemire?
Oof, that would have been another fun guess. Incorrect, though. Unfortunately, we didn't get enough Samuel Lemire in our lives as K-State fans. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. I was going to say something bad about another K-State quarterback, and I'm not in that mood to do it today. So I won't. But if you had asked 12-year-old Mason Voth, I would have told you that I would have rather have seen Collin Klein or Samuel Lemire playing quarterback. That's not to be offense to Carson Kaufman in this day and age. I'm appreciative of what he did, but
my what if question is kind of similar, to be honest.
Yeah, well, mine is too. So yeah.
So was this like a trick play action? Because this doesn't feel like
you would call this a trick play, and I am telling you, we've witnessed 2 plays that would start to give you an idea of what might have happened.
Okay, so was this like a Josh Cherry?
You are as hot as you can get without being correct.
Okay, so then was it Anthony Cantelli?
Anthony Cantelli with a rushing touchdown in 2010. And guess what, Drew? I did the digging. I have video of Anthony Cantelli's rushing touchdown. It came early in the season against Missouri State. There is no audio attached to it because I was trying to find the game itself. That was probably like an FCS game or a K-State HDTV. I don't know. So it wasn't going to be easy to find. But I did find about, I don't know, like a 5-minute highlight package of Anthony Cantelli on like the Coles Kicking Academy YouTube account. And I watched the whole thing waiting to see if this was in there. And of course, the very last clip was Anthony Cantelli's touchdown against Missouri State early in the year in 2010. Very similar to Josh Cherry, where there's a dive, he just barely gets in. This is a very impressive play to me, though. This is the fake with Ryan Dorr and Anthony Cantelli running the option.
Running the option. That's crazy.
I couldn't tell if that was Collin Klein and John Hubert or, again, Dorr and Cantelli. But there you have it.
Here's another thing that, like, is wild.
By the way, real quick, Drew, it gets even better. Anthony Cantelli missed the PAT after scoring this touchdown.
I love it. Like, another wild thing from this era is, like, looking back, remembering that everybody talked about, like, K-State being so guarded and not wanting to show their hand at times. But, like, they're running a fake field goal option against Missouri State for no reason.
Yeah, you do think it would have been probably better to break that out against somebody else, but
with the backup kicker too.
In the second quarter of that game, so I don't know what the deal was. I was 12 years old at that point, so maybe Josh Cherry was banged up or something, or I don't know. It was the first game of the year, and Cherry only kicked PATs in that game, so I don't know what the deal was on that one. But anyways, there you go. Or I guess, the week before they would have played at UCLA, right? They started the season at UCLA. He did not play in that game or, get any kicks off. So
just for zero reason in the second
against
quarter
UCLA
against Missouri, in the second quarter for zero reason against Missouri State, they run a fake field goal. I mean, I'm not complaining about it. I'm just like, that doesn't line up with like what we were taught throughout our childhood.
Yeah, I'm looking right now to see if there were any situations where maybe K-State could have used a fake field goal later in the year. My suggestion would be on 4th and 2 against Baylor that year. They failed to convert on a 4th and 2 at the Baylor 24. Maybe that's a time to break it out. K-State obviously ended up losing that game by a tight one. I listened to that on the radio in the parking lot of the Party City on the west side of Wichita. As my mom was in there, that was a miserable experience. So there you go. But Anthony Cantelli rushing touchdown in that game. I've got a fly that entered the house when I was outside doing yard work earlier, and it just found its way over to me. I tried killing it earlier, and now it's there again. Anyways, there you go. That's your trivia question for the day. And I thought that was a fun one.
That was a great trivia question.
Yeah, and I don't even really know how I came to thinking of that. Maybe you know what it was? I was looking at the team stats from this season, and I saw that Anthony Cantelli had a rushing touchdown, and I was like, okay, we've got to figure out the situation behind this. All right, let's.
Are we diving into our best and worst plays?
We are. Yeah, you can give me your best play right now.
Best play is easily the blocked PAT that Josh Cherry runs in, because more than anything, it's just hilarious.
Well, and I mean, it's a really impressive play. And that's coming from somebody as a Cowboys fan that watched a botched field goal with Tony Romo against the Seahawks in the playoffs a few years before this. He came up just short on his run. The fact that the guy coming to kick the ball was able to scoop it and run it in. So I give a lot of credit to Josh Cherry on that one. So that was my best play as well. And then the inverse of that is that I gave Texas the worst play for their fake field goal attempt in the game. K-State, a lot of times I like to try to pick out a K-State play that I hated in this game. I didn't really have that specifically for K-State, and I thought the Texas one was so bad with Justin Tucker that's the one that I ended up going with.
Yeah, we're 2 for 2 on the same ones for best and worst play. The K-State play that I had written down as my throwing it out there because it was K-State was when it was that 4th and 1 and they had the false start.
Yeah, which I did make a note of. That was one of those where I said my notes, another classic Snyder error, pre-snap penalty on short yardage situation to prevent going for it on 4th down, which with Collin Klein, they probably would have been able to get. I mean, Collin Klein and Daniel Thomas back there, you would have thought short yardage should have been a shoe-in for how things ended up working out there. Anyways, so we have that for the best and the worst in the game. What aged well? I mean, the easy answer here is Collin Klein, obviously.
Yes.
That ended up going pretty well for K-State, better than anybody really could have imagined with it. So I think Collin Klein is the easy answer there, unless you had something else that was maybe not even, player personnel related.
Now, I had that because this game, not a lot aged well, but I thought a lot of things aged poorly after this game. But the other thing that I had written down was a sneaky one, because I kept finding myself looking at the ticker of what was happening in the sports world that day. And I wrote down TCU and Utah being in the same conference.
Oh, yeah. And we've talked about this before with some of these. Where we've gone, hey, look, that ended up, making a lot of sense. So, yes, that's a good call there. I like getting to see the cut-ins of the old games. This is a really high quality, replay uploaded to YouTube. So it all felt really good. So it was fun to watch how that ended up playing out. Okay. What aged poorly? Again, if we're going on the player route, I would just go ahead and say Justin Tucker is one that at first you would have said he aged very well. But then obviously we know how his career ended in the NFL and he started to suck in the NFL too, but he also just sucked off the field. In addition to that, I would say Mark Jones. I also found Mark Jones to be really good in this game. And my perception of him just cratered over probably the last 5-6 years. And so much of it has to do with, I think being Deion Sanders' left and right hand man, and just everything that goes with that. But I just think he's really taken a step back as a broadcaster, and now he's done at ESPN. I'll just be doing King's broadcast. I don't know what it is. It's gotten a little too much for me at this point, but he still has moments of brilliance too, because I think that his call of Jace Brown's 50-yard touchdown in Boulder is that's one of those calls that's always going to stick with me in K-State, the throw happens and he does the Brown doing it for the Cats. Like, I think that's really good. But there's just so much to Mark Jones' game that is a nothing at this point.
Yeah, I also have Mark Jones. I also have an unfortunate one of like just beating Texas ends up aging poorly because of how the last like 7 years went for Texas in the Big 12, where they just had K-State's number. Another one that I have, or I guess I have another two for aging poorly. The end of the 2010 season, because K-State's 6-3 at this point, with 3 games left on the road, but none were like against the better teams in the Big 12. Like,
yeah, and I mean that next week's game against Missouri was one of those that like the opportunity was kind of there, and they were in it. They had the ball down a touchdown around midfield, and Carson Kaufman got sacked and lost the football, and then K-State really couldn't hang in there from that point.
Like,
but
Missouri ends up going 10-3 in the 2010 season. Like, they weren't like world beaters that like scared you.
That crappy Colorado team that we just talked about as well.
Yes.
Losing at them on the road, and that's the last Big 12 game at Folsom Field that Colorado will play for 14 years. Like that's one that's just unfortunate too, that you weren't able to do more in that game and win that one. And then you were there. We've talked about it before. You watched the Daniel Thomas versus Lance Dunbar show in Denton at the end of the year. It took K-State going on the road to North Texas and barely sneaking out with a touchdown victory over North Texas. So yeah, the season, like 2010 obviously was great and certainly still very foundational, but it ended with a pretty big thud.
It probably should have been better, because you at least should have beaten Colorado and won 8 games the regular season, and then we see what happens in the bowl game. But I think that you also kind of get dinged, because in this era when bowl games meant a lot more, to also lose the bowl game meant that K-State lost 4 of the last 5 after starting 6-3.
Yeah, let's see, because I want to see where everybody else kind of ended up in the Big 12 bowls for everything. So A&M got to go to the Cotton Bowl, and they got demolished by LSU. Let's see. OU went to the Fiesta Bowl, and they blew out UConn in that game. And then others in here. This is my best Mike Francesa just reading to you guys, which nobody loves. Nebraska went to the Holiday Bowl against Washington, got beat 19-7. So there's Nebraska going to a bowl game and laying an egg. And then we know K-State in the Pinstripe Bowl, how that worked out. Oklahoma State, they got the Alamo Bowl nod against Arizona. They won 36-10 in that game. That was an 11-2 Oklahoma State team that ended up in the Alamo Bowl. And then others, Baylor got the Texas Bowl against Illinois. Illinois pantsed them 38-14. Mizzou goes the Insight Bowl, loses to Iowa. And then I think that was it for the Big 12 there. So that's how.
But if you win one more Big 12 game, like you're potentially at least playing at the Texas Bowl and the Pinstripe Bowl.
Well, and just, I mean, think about how much we know about the bowl selection process, especially now. Like, I was not thinking of this as a 12-year-old, but like so much of this is, hey, have we seen you in a long time? How are you going to travel? You're not going to unseat a 10-2 Oklahoma State team from the Alamo Bowl in that circumstance. But so many of those others would have been dying to finally get K-State back in the mix, because K-State hadn't really, they hadn't done it since 2003. So when they went to the Fiesta Bowl after winning the Big 12 title, so it had been a long time. Well, in the 2006 year, they went to the Texas Bowl against Rutgers, obviously. But what I mean is, so many of those like bowls that were used to K-State being in the mix, like the Alamo, like the Insight, the Cactus, whatever you want to call it these days, back to the Cactus now. They hadn't gotten a crack at K-State, and so I'm with you. And look, I think the Pinstripe Bowl probably still would have fought hard for K-State regardless, because that would have been a pretty good time to get them your first game, all that. But K-State certainly would have liked to have gone somewhere else and played somebody better than Syracuse, I would imagine. And then, K-State ended up getting screwed, and it's a good thing they'd never gone back to that bowl game. But anyways, we can move on. Funny enough, I mentioned Mark Jones in my What Age Poorly. We always grade the broadcast. I gave it a C-. That's how bad Bob Davie was for most of this game. It kind of cracked me up at times, but also he misspoke a lot or just didn't really know what he was talking about. And I saw somebody even made that comment on the YouTube. So shout out to Brady Potter 4134 10 years ago on this YouTube video. He said everything Bob Davie said in these made him look like he has no idea WTF he's talking about. Yeah, I would agree with that. He was pretty clueless at times, but like I said, I thought Mark Jones was good. Just the production value in some of this, and there were a lot of great crowd shots throughout the game. And I think you could make the case that I have some preferences in certain directions, but I think this was the best time for ESPN's graphics package across the entire network.
Yeah, I agree with that. I gave this broadcast a C. Mark Jones had some good and some bad. Bob Davie had some good and some bad. But also like just some funny, like saying that he doesn't think Garrett Gilbert could see was extremely funny. I wrote down that this is my favorite graphic package that ESPN had. It was an awesome score bug. It cracked me up seeing what we know about technology now, that it kept saying like ESPN2 HD and like the broadcast being videoed in high definition was killing me. The sad shots, the Texas fan with a paper bag over his head. We got to see Frank Martin. They also talked about like the social media pressure that Mac Brown was facing in 2010.
Oh, yes. And I do want to play that for everybody here. So let me get this up, and we'll have that for you, because this I thought was really on the nose, and it's funny considering now for us, KSO, part of the On3 network, and how things end up working out. So let's find right here. Okay, so this is where it begins, and they are going to talk about the pressure on Mac Brown and where it's coming from.
There's so many different platforms out there. When you talk about media, it's not just the guy showing up from the local TV station anymore. There's newspaper, there's talk radio, there's Facebook, there's guys in their basement on blogs, there's Twitter. And it seems like the bombardment comes from all angles at times. 3rd down and 6.
They'll talk about it a little bit more.
Hey, there's the first pass.
Yeah, that's right. This is where the first pass was.
Of the first down. And that's the first completion. That's why you hear the cheers. The first completion of the night for Klein. But it's not enough for the first down. But they got the completion back.
It's 7:29 to play in the third quarter.
Cyber world. If you're a head coach, what do you tell your players about being able to handle some of that stuff? We've seen incidents this year already where it's come under fire.
Well, you can't ignore it because it's for real. And, the concern I have, Texas almost blocked that punt. In fact, they did get their hands on that punt right there.
And it's tipped. It's going to roll all the way down to the 38-yard line. What do you do? How do you handle that kind of stuff?
It's so funny hearing them talk about this when it's like 50 times worse now.
Yeah.
like take what it was back then and like multiply it by 1,000, and now you're at where we're at now.
Oh, and it's also funny too, because they're definitely, when they're talking about the blogs and all this, they're definitely referring to things like Orange Bloods back then, which like in 2010, and these things have been started to be around for a while in a lot of these places. Like, obviously, we know at this point, like there had been the free subscription, like message board sites, and there were the paid ones and all that around K-State and others. But like that was something that still hadn't exploded to the point that it is now, but it was coming around, and they were kind of like shooing it off like, oh, these guys, whatever. And it's now that's the majority of how these college teams are covered. Like you still have a couple of like true like newspapers that follow along, but the ones that are in like the, kind of the daily rigor of all of this, I mean, especially football, like there's only, I think only one paper last year went to every K-State football game, and it was the Star/Wichita Eagle. But like for KSO, we had somebody at every football game. I know Go Power Cat had somebody at every football game. The year, like think about 2022, the year that I was at Rivals, we had somebody at every single football game that season. Like there were 3 dedicated sites covering K-State at one time. And it's just one of those things that here they're making. And you're right. It's like it's gotten even bigger and louder for these guys and the players even more now with like social media exploded. Because so I went to go look. I started my Twitter account in, let's see, August of 2011. So that would be like, what? That ends up being almost 9 months after this game is when I first get my Twitter account. So like Twitter really hadn't blown up even to that point yet. Like it's still relatively new. And I'm sure really at this point, a lot of players probably weren't using it yet. And now, yeah, you've got obviously every player's on Twitter. The crazy one is we just talked about it the other day. And DY pointed out like, this is like the first Instagram class. And you and I had talked about that. Like, I feel like the old man because these guys are committing now. And you're the one that's on top of it. You're like, oh, yeah, he just committed on Instagram. And you look and their Twitter is bone dry. They haven't put anything on there. I'm like, oh, my goodness. Like, can we grow up? 17-year-old high school students. Can we go back to using Twitter? I mean, Twitter has turned into what I thought of Facebook as over the last 5 years. And it's funny how it moves and it just catches up to you in the kind of the most surprising of ways. But yeah, I thought that was like a very, foreshadowing thing that they discussed in this game. And obviously we know like Texas, a very online fan base, and it's how they've ended up and hired and fired coaches over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it was a very funny talk to hear for the first time, like fully comprehending it in 2026.
Yeah.
MVP, I went with the position unit. I did the whole offensive line for K-State. They threw the ball 4 times and dominated the game. Like, you can't do that if your offensive line sucks.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you did something fun and different and nice to those guys. I just made it easy, and it's Collin Klein, because I can also only imagine what the reaction was after this game when you watch that unfold and you see K-State dominate Texas the way that they did, and it comes with Collin Klein just kind of running the show and not having to throw the ball. I would have loved to have heard what college John Kurtz was saying when this happened. I would have read that collegian column on Monday morning and been excited to see what he had to say there. So I put Collin Klein, and then the underrated player. Like, it's hard to call him underrated because of like just how pronounced he was in this game. But I think it has to go to Ralph Guidry. Because he was involved in so much. And, when you're not getting to the quarterback and putting up sacks, people will kind of let defensive linemen go unnoticed. But like, he was a force all throughout this game and played a pretty heavy hand in a few of those interceptions that K-State ended up coming away with. There was also a play in the second quarter. Texas almost scored, and they thought that they had. I mentioned James Kirkendall earlier. He had a really nice game, some pretty impressive catches. He made a really nice grab at one point and had like a 60-yard touchdown in the first half of this game. It got wiped off because Ralph Guidry was held on the play. And so it was just another one of those things that showcased the type of game that he put together and that he had for K-State. So I think
he's in the realm of like top 10 most underrated Wildcats of our era.
Yeah. I mean, really, really, really good with what he was able to accomplish. And one of those guys like Tyson Hartman, where you think to yourself, man, I wish that there had been an extra year and they got to be a part of that Big 12 title team. I mean, it's essentially a little different because, your time is finite and it's not solely based on your ability when you're done playing college football. It's like the clock that's there. But it's a
Yeah.
little bit how I feel about Billy Butler with the Royals. Like, it kind of sucks that he didn't get to be on the team that won the World Series. And his last year was the team that lost in Game 7. Now, look, it was the totally right thing for the Royals. Like, Billy was slipping, and they undoubtedly won that World Series because they had Kendrys Morales instead of Billy Butler at DH. But like, sentimentally, and for what Billy Butler brought to the Royals for a long time, I think it would have been fun and nice to have seen him get that. And I think guys like Hartman and Guidry would certainly fit the bill of man. And Daniel Thomas, I mean, we wish Daniel Thomas could have even just had the 2011 season. I mean, if Daniel Thomas is on the 2011 team, we're talking back-to-back Big 12 titles being in play. Because I certainly would think that he'd make the difference in that game against Oklahoma State in 2011.
Yes.
So, that's one of those that I look back on, and I think about some of those guys, and man, like 2009 to 2014 was such an awesome time to watch K-State football. And there's a world out there where it could have even been a little bit better if the timelines of these guys' careers opened up to be more conjoined, which I think would also bleed into our what ifs from this game.
Yeah, my what if Collin Klein could actually throw the ball in 2010.
Oh, okay.
Because he would have been the starting quarterback the entire time.
So that's a little bit of a harsher way to frame it. I was just going to say, like, what if you had committed to it a little bit earlier and just given it a go in 2010? Because I think it's kind of clear to see that, like, if
Their
you have
ceiling
his
was a lot
ability
higher with Klein than
if you have his ability back there running with Daniel Thomas, like, you could have put yourself in a really nice spot. So I think it's unfortunate that, like, that my what if was, what if those two got a full season together, Collin Klein and Daniel Thomas? And if you want to say, hey, Daniel Thomas gets an extra year and it's 2011, that's fine. That probably would have been the best case scenario, because then, Tyler Lockett is on the team. Like, Chris Harper is a legitimate threat on that team. Like, there were even more weapons to be used on offense in that 2011 team. But I just kind of wish that we got the extra full year of Collin Klein starting at quarterback in 2010 and see where things go. And
no, I agree.
Maybe things don't go better, but like, they clearly just decided, all right, hey, we're gonna give this to Collin or whatever. Like, that's where I wish I was old enough to remember what the actual thoughts and conversation over those 2 years were like going into 2010, and obviously Carson Kaufman being the quarterback and Collin Klein just kind of being tucked away and eventually needed when they needed him throughout the year, and then the expectation entering that 2011 season. That way I had a better, like, framework reference to kind of have this conversation, because, like, I look back now and I go, geez Louise, why did you not play him in 2010?
No, I agree.
Because then you can't lie and tell me then that like they thought he was going to be awesome in 2011. Like, you definitely just ran him out there and you're like, yeah, kind of hope it works out. Like whatever.
I mean, I'm with you there, because then, like, even building off of yours instead of mine was just the very blunt, like, if he could throw, what happens?
You're putting you're putting all of the blame here on Collin Klein and not Bill Snyder or, like, what would have been Del Miller at the time.
Well, if you watch this game, on any time that K-State, like, attempted to throw a pass, he did not look comfortable at all. So, like, it goes hand in hand. But to, like, add
okay, well, guess what? We're gonna watch the West Virginia game at the end of this, and I'm just gonna say it. The way that Collin threw the football does not give off, I'm comfortable throwing it at any point in his career. That doesn't mean that he was uncomfortable throwing it. It's just, yeah, he's a funky thrower, but it worked. So,
but
maybe
also,
lay off the head coach of Kansas State, Drew. We've got a job to do. My word.
But also with yours, it kind of goes back to, it ties into a little bit of, like, what I said about 2010 ending so poorly, is what if they just would have stuck with it after the Texas game and didn't have Kaufman and Klein? Because if you look at, like, the last 3 games, I wish that there was some way on the internet that we could watch these last 3 games too of 2010, because they split some time at quarterback, and, like, what does it look like if they just would have stuck with Klein through the last 3 games? Do they beat a terrible Colorado team. Do they actually pull off that last drive against Missouri? Like, we just never know. And like, that's where, you know, we don't have that benefit of like remembering all of this happening, because if I would have been more aware of what was happening, I probably would have been kind of pissed off that Carson Kaufman came back in. And that's no disrespect to him. That's just that if you look at Carson Kaufman's touchdown to interception ratio,
Yeah.
it wasn't much better than Garrett Gilbert
So
coming into this game.
I would have to go back and look because I have really not a ton of recollection about that game against Missouri in 2010. Carson Kaufman started the game and K-State gets down. They're doing nothing on offense. K-State punts the first 2 drives. They go 3 and out on those drives. Then Collin comes in and they immediately go 5 for 41 touchdown with a rushing touchdown. And then the next drive after Missouri takes a touchdown to go up 7 again. It's 14-7. K-State goes 8 for 84 touchdown. And then Missouri, they score. It's 21-14. And Collin comes back out. And at some point in there, Carson Kaufman returns the game. K-State had to use a timeout after Collin converts a 4th down. My assumption would be is that he got hurt at some point in that game and he had to come out momentarily, because then he came back out to start the 3rd quarter. So I think that's probably what happened. And I'm sure the people that had fully functioning brains back in 2010 will be able to remind us of that in the comments and everything. But like,
I have it in
start the game with him. Like he just,
yes.
with what he just did, there's no reason to go back to Carson Kaufman in that situation. Even though like, you know what, you're probably coming off of like the KU game at that point. And he played really well in that one. Well, no, they were coming off 2 straight losses to Baylor and Oklahoma State. Oh, that was some big lightning I just got.
That was lightning?
Yeah, and then thunder that is probably going to scare the pee out of my daughters.
I have it in big letters in our like in what I want to ask Collin at Big 12 Media Days that isn't just about the team and this upcoming season. I have it written down that I want to talk about the game against Texas, because it ties into like what we're talking about today. But I also have written down, I want to talk to him about the end of 2010 and kind of how that all went down, because this definitely feels like he should have just gotten the job.
Yeah, well, and that kind of ties into like you think about Avery in 2023. And I understand that there was a lot more at stake in 2023 as it was coming to an end and everything. With, you know, Big 12 title was on the table, obviously. So you think, well, Will Howard just won it. Like maybe we should have. But I like in the moment, we're talking that day after the Texas Tech game going, why would you go back? Like that should have started it. And so you wonder, how different is that year? How different are the 2 years after? If the keys are just given to Avery Johnson right then, maybe the outcome's a little different. But anyways, that's all what ifs for future KSO Classics. If we ever do KSO Classic on the 23 Texas Tech game. All right, final way to end this thing out. Or did you have a random player that popped up in this game that you kind of went, oh, that guy?
Mine was Marquise Goodwin, because he didn't do much on offense for Texas, but he nailed Ryan Dorr for a penalty.
Yeah. Shout out to him. All right. Grade the game. I gave it a 7.6. I thought it was really fun. A good solid game to go back and watch. There wasn't a ton of flair to it. And I think that's where there's a good balance between games that are turnover heavy. K-State didn't really have to make a lot of plays on offense to get their points in this game. So I enjoyed it. It was fun. But it's not one that I was sitting there the whole time going like, oh my goodness, this is awesome. Like, I'm glad I got to watch this again. It was a really fun one, great one, but nothing to push it over the top into like the 8 range for me.
Oh, see, I still gave this an 8. I went 8.2, but I think it was straight up because of how funny it was to do this to Texas during one of their really bad seasons. And to see like all the sad Texas fans really made me laugh. And then it was just all around good vibes from this game. Some of these games have been kind of a slog to get through at times. I would still go 8.2. Like, this was a fun rewatch. Yeah. The game held up really well, surprisingly, for a blowout. Like I was pretty engaged the entire time. Fun looking back that it was Collin's first start, and just all around good. Like it will be so hard. I don't know how you feel about this, but like it will be hard for any game that we go and rewatch to actually be better than the Copper Bowl.
Yeah, the Copper Bowl, it had a lot going for it, as we've discussed.
Like that game was incredible to rewatch.
Yeah,
I guess watch
really
the first time for us.
Yeah, really, really good stuff there. All right, K-State 39-14 in the 2010 victory over Texas. Collin Klein only attempts 4 passes for 9 yards, but K-State ran all over the place, forced a ton of Texas turnovers. And next week, we watch an equally insane game as K-State goes into the 60s against Texas A&M, and Collin Klein scores another touchdown. But the question is, did he throw for it? Did he run for it? Did he catch it? Find out next week on KSO Classic.